Alright, so fresh out of the file of things that took me a lot longer to figure out than they should, I figured out that it's really nice if you're any type of tradesman who works outdoors, especially here in the summer, but I can see how this would be great if you work in a rainy climate as well. It is really nice to work underneath these tarps, and they're not very expensive. This one, it costs like well under $100. I'll put some links in the video description if anybody is interested. And so yeah, this is actually an idea that I somehow managed to not have before. And Mechanic Steve really likes to set these things up over machines that he's working on, you know, when he's doing mobile mechanics work. And last summer I did a number of welding jobs in the field with him, and I was like, man, this is a really good idea. I gotta get me one of these and stick it on my truck. And so here's the thing with these things, you know, like I said, they're not that expensive. They keep you out of the sun, and that's a really nice blessing, you know. And it's 110 degrees outside with 90% humidity. You're underneath a welding jacket. You know, welding, it's really nice to be able to do that in the shade if you have the option. And these canopies, this one was not very difficult to set up. I don't think I've ever actually set one of these up myself before. I know I've like given other people a hand while I'm helping them set theirs up, but honestly it was not bad at all. I think the whole thing took maybe like 5-6 minutes for me to set up the first time I'd ever done it. And it just wasn't that hard. It would have been easier. I kind of wish I had some children. I could just like tell each one to grab a leg on this thing and walk in opposite directions, because that would have set the whole thing up in seconds. But doing it yourself is really not bad. This canopy, it's a 10x10, and man, this thing is going to be a dream to get to work underneath whenever I have the chance. Now, all of these are the good attributes of having one of these things you can work under, but like most earthly things, this is not perfect. Mainly this material on top of this thing, it's like a type of nylon or something. I'm fairly certain is somewhat flammable, so do this at your own risk. If you watch this video and you're like, oh, I'm gonna work underneath one of these things, and you light it off working in a forest and set the whole county on fire, you know, that'd be bad. But, you know, a lot of the time, as most of you guys know, my regular viewers, when you're doing a welding job, a very small percentage of the job is actually welding. A lot of it's like grinding and sawing and fitting stuff up and whatnot. Man, if you can set this up when you're working on stuff, it would be really nice. So yeah, the other thing is, I mean, a lot of people work underneath these things. I've learned since then it's a very common thing. I mean, this is basically the same type of setup that even a lot of pipeline welders use, and I mean, they know what they're doing, and evidently these things don't really light off that often, so I'm not that worried about it. Now, this particular one, this is an Amazon Basics brand thingamajigger here. I mean, I wasn't gonna get anything fancy. This one, like I said, it was well under $100. And I'm not an expert on these canopies, however, I will say there's nothing wrong with it. It does not seem any flimsier than any of the other ones that I've ever been around. And I mean, for the cost of like, for most people who do mobile welding, 1 to 2 billable hours of your time, you have this thing, which should withstand at least a season of use. Probably more. I feel like that canopy is going to be the first thing to go, but man, I'm so redneck, I just buy a tarp or something and replace it someday. So anyway, yeah, I'm really glad I have this thing. So this is just, I guess it's just sort of a random review. It's probably not the most interesting video in the world for you guys, but I wanted to set this thing up in my yard and make sure there's nothing wrong with it before I actually take it out on the truck with me, because that would be very awkward and embarrassing, and there wasn't. So I wanted to pass this brief review along, maybe give you guys an idea. I mean, it's not something I'd want to run carbon arc under, like aiming upwards at the canopy here, but short of that, I plan to use this thing a lot. And I'm really glad that more time did not go by before I figured out this. So whatever the case, yeah, so really the only issue I had is when I was taking this thing down, I struggled to get it all stuffed back into the bag, but I told myself if you know, like the underage Chinese factory peasants can manage to cram all this together when they built it, I should be able to get it back in the box as well, which I was. I figured out the secret for this. This is one thing I did learn. The secret for this, at least on mine, is you have to get this framework mostly packed back down, then you stuff the canopy around like the center of it that's folded up, and then you mash it down the rest of the way and stuff it all in the sack. So whatever the case, random video, but yeah, I really wish I'd had this brilliant idea years ago, and yeah, this is gonna make life so much easier. So thanks for watching, guys.